Is my papyrus plant. I saw it at Home Depot and I just thought, I would really like to have a papyrus plant. It has to come in over the winter. Um, Probably need to trim it back some this year, but we're going to overwinter it, and you can see there's some new growth at the bottom even in October. So that's papyrus, and then got some lemongrass, and it too overwintered in the house. And we'll see what we can do with that. I'm wondering if maybe it needs to be separated at this point, but anyway. This was mostly going to be herbs, so we got lemon balm and lemon thyme and rosemary in the back, and got some Italian parsley. And I guess at some point I stuck a tomato cutting in there, and so we've got cherry tomatoes coming. Um, These are the peppers. They've done really well on these deck deck bags, garden bags, and I don't know what to make of it really. They just kind of tripled in size from last year. It may be due to the adjuvant that I'm using, but more on that later. Got one that's a little sad on the end here, but here are the deck tomatoes, and they really didn't do very much until very recently, like late September. Cherry tomatoes, and then I like having these currant tomatoes. They are about the size of large peas, I guess, and there's quite a bit of fruit on these guys, and it's getting cold. I don't know how much more we'll get. They seem to be home to ladybugs, which is not a bad thing, I guess. And so that's what we've got on the deck. They seem to be pretty happy, and they'd be happier if I got them started earlier. But I put stuff out too late this year to catch most of the summer growing season. But that's another story. I talked to you about my periwinkle project, and this is actually accumulated over a couple of years, but got a healthy crop. I just went through and kind of sorted and weeded and pulled some strangers out. That bare spot in the middle is where Kathy has flower that comes out first in the spring around March 2nd, which is her birthday, and I'm forgetting the name of them. Anyway, they're there in bulbs in the bottom, and I think maybe a couple of daylilies. And the section that I was really interested in developing is over here, toward that back corner. We'll get up a little closer, but it's pretty much just planting and sorting and letting them go to town, I suppose, and getting the effect that we want in terms of retaining the soil. You can see that concrete spillway that makes a 90-degree turn, and whoever designed that, I mean, water just does not do well with 90-degree turns. So anyway, I'm gonna head back to the raised bed. And the big tomatoes that I had out here got off to a late start. Some of the hybrid varieties didn't do too well. I've kind of pulled some of those out and plugged up the drip irrigation for them to spread the resources a little better. Back there in the corner by the bricks, that's a determinate variety. I think it's Celebrity, and this is the first year I planted those, and they did pretty good. If I got them out earlier, I think they would have done better. Most of the production we got this year was from the Cherokee purples that are here in this second row, and still have some big ones on the vine. Hopefully it will stay warm enough so we get some more production. And then these are the littler ones, are cuttings. Something's been eaten on this guy. here's another one of those determinate tomatoes about ready to be picked, and they're still blooms. And what I can't quite fathom, and it's probably not very easy to see, but these Mexican sunflowers generally in previous years have gotten to about 6-7 feet. But this guy, and I don't know if I can get a close up, it's hard to see from this angle, but last time I tried to measure, those top blooms are about 15 feet off the ground. And I mean, that's more than double what I've seen before. Part of the reason is I wasn't watching the drip irrigation very well, and that thing just basically got all the water that otherwise should have gone to the rest of the legs here because of a plug that popped out. But it also may be due to this adjuvant that I've been talking about, and I'll send you to the website there. It's a product of chemistry. Well, I'll write it up, but basically it's 1 tablespoon in 5 gallons, and apply it every 3 weeks. And I'm seeing results anyway. And then we have some companion basil. I didn't worry about topping them. They were really there just to attract some pollinators. So this is the problem area. That back corner doesn't get a lot of sun. A lot of times we've got all kinds of trash plants coming in there. And then you can see it makes this turn, and this gets washed out quite a bit. So this year I tried to put these garden stones down, see if I could build things up, and for the most part I've got it to where most of the water is coming in and flowing through this lane here of rocks. I had issues with it splashing over those tiles, but I think we pretty much got that going. And at first I was just going to let the periwinkle overrun this, and then it seemed like it was getting sun, so I put down some perennials. I don't know if I can identify, but given that there's a fair amount of sun here, it seems like it might be worth doing something with flowers. Tried sunflowers in the past, but they didn't do that great. And what will happen when it floods, our neighbors, they put down some sod, you can see, and they planted the back. They used to have a fence up there, but that grass, when they first put it down in the spring when we had these really hard rains, it actually washed up the sod pieces and carried them down the road, really, behind these houses. Same thing happened to me a little bit earlier. I tried to put some perennials in, and they hadn't quite rooted to the point where they could stand on their own. And that same rain, I wound up having to go down 2-3 houses to pick up my plants and trudge back and put them back in the ground. So that's the perennial slash periwinkle project. And so the consult I would like to get is any feedback in general, and what might be a good use for this stretch here. It may be that I don't know if you can mix periwinkle and some of these perennials, but this is the first year I've deliberately planted anything other than those bags of wildflower seeds that you scatter. So there we have it. Sun comes up over here, goes down over the house in that direction. So This part of the yard gets some good light. The leaves are off these trees. They're kind of overrunning this back section to where most of the year there's more shade than what we're seeing right now. So they don't get quite as much. This part doesn't get full sun due to the overhanging black walnuts. That's another question. I've seen different opinions about whether or not these things are okay in compost. I actually saw one YouTube where the dude went to a park, took home 100 pounds of black walnuts from under a tree, separated them out, got to the walnuts, cracked the walnuts, and he was eating them. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. You can put anything out on the internet you want, and I'm wondering about the veracity and the reliability of what this guy's trying to sell. So anyway, somebody said never buy a house lower than the street. This house was just the right house for us, and you can see where the roadway is up there. And that's part of the issue with the drainage, and we've got other stuff going on. But anyway, there are the beds. Like I said, I'm putting some perennials in. It's a butterfly bush in the corner. Sasquatch stomping on a garden gnome. That's Kathy's contribution.